this session to be as interactive as possible. So please, it will be kind of interactive itself by nature, because there is some polling that will take place. That's why I would like you all, please, to scan this code, and if you can, try it, reload it if it doesn't load, just as a preparation, so it doesn't take a lot of our time later on when we will get to the polling part. As I told you, I like this session to be interactive without it being chaotic. So we'll hope that we will answer a lot of your questions. We will raise your interest in the polling first, in answering the polls. Then we will discuss the results of the polls. And hopefully we will have some time with that at the end for Q&A if I'm able to cover the material on time. So the issue at hand, I'll give you 2 minutes to please scan the code and let me know if you are ready. It will show you that there is no active poll now, which is normal because I did not yet open the poll. So, but it will be ready so that when we will be having the poll, it will be fine for you to join. As you know, rankings have been talked about a lot in all the systems. We will start by telling you about Qatar University. This is the institution we work in. It is in Qatar the largest, oldest, and most prominent institution of higher education. It was for a long time the only public institution. Now we have little sisters going there and here and there, and of course competition, healthy competition is good. I can is anyone having any questions? Okay, so just to tell you about the university, it's a comprehensive university like any university in our region, any public university in our region. It has 12 colleges, 18 research centers. It has a big research component due to the fact that Qatar as a nation, we're blessed to be in a country that has a lot of resources in terms of research. So while we are a teaching institution, not a research institution, we have 18 research excellence research centers, and we have the biggest volume of research in the state of Qatar, just by the fact that we are in a country that is conducive to this kind of things. We're, of course, collaborating with people, all over the world. And most importantly, why are we in a good position to talk about rankings? We are doing well in rankings. In fact, we're doing very well. So that gives us the leverage of being able to criticize rankings when needed, without being, accused of doing so because we're dropping in the ranking. We're doing very well, as you've seen. We're in a steady progress, and still we give rankers a hard time due to their twisted methodology and mainly due to the gaming that happens in this ranking. So that's a background a little bit about the university. About me, I was involved in rankings initially because the university thought that it had mathematical concepts that needed someone with a mathematical background to deal with. I'm sure those of you who know about rankings know that there is nothing mathematical about it. Maybe a grade 9 student with basic statistics can understand the concepts. But anyways, I got stung by it and started working on it. And what I will try to share today is how does student affairs fit into this whole system, and how much importance do ranking agencies give to student affairs? Because as an institution, students should be the main point of interest for us. So we'll try to analyze a little bit here how ranking methodologies affect your work or do not affect your work, in fact. So, of course, student affairs anchors the student experience. It's about belonging, well-being, co-curricular learning, employability, and community engagement. That's across the whole MENA system, of course, but of course, that's also something common to other areas, especially Africa and Latin America. That's what I came to understand through my work. Now, according to its mission, EASA seeks to bring together a global professional community to share practice, build capacity, and strengthen the strategic role of student affairs worldwide. This strategic role is what we will be focusing on today. How strategic is your role, especially in the visibility of your university, and specifically as a brand in the rankings? At least I can give you the example for Qatar University. Wadad and her colleagues support 24,000 students with advising, career services, financial aid, holistic development, pretty much what you do in your institutions in the Arab higher education system. Now, Arab universities are increasingly mission-driven, which is a good thing, especially that our mission is to create cadres for our society, work on SDGs, civic outcomes, and student affairs is a key delivery partner for all of these, from equity to inclusion to skills, and these are not captured well by global rankings. So that's the background a little bit. Let's now dive into the work that we will do together. I want you please to tell me from your experience, which ranking students mention most when they come to you, not yours, like which one do you think that students, when they are approaching the university, when they come to you, which ranking from these three or any other are they mentioning most? Out of the top of your head, doesn't have to be accurate. We'll give it one more minute because we only have 7 answers already. So if you are able to vote, please let's have some significant significant numbers here. Excellent. I guess that we have a good margin. You can still vote later if you're not able to vote now. You can also choose to vote anonymously if it's better for you. So basically, as we can see, very few, and rightfully so, go to ARWU. ARWU is the Shanghai ranking. Just in case you were confused, ARWU is the other name for Shanghai ranking, more known as Shanghai ranking. We will see later on why you seem to be quite, knowledgeable about rankings. Why would ARWU not really be very reliable in this instance? So 12 votes. I'll move to the next one. Unless you want me to stay, please let me know. So as we've seen, we have a majority that go to QS, and another one, the other option is THE. They are the most visible in branding. So I'll give you the data worldwide. The question that is asked is, do these rankings really shape student choice? So basically, do students really look at rankings and come to you and choose the university based on rankings? QS itself ran an international student survey, and it discovered that 66% prioritize teaching quality. So this is very good that a ranking agency ran this study, and it shows that 66% prioritize teaching quality, 65% associate teaching quality with a well-ranked university, of course. 45% compare 5 or more universities before deciding. IDP has done a study itself, and it showed that graduate employment rate are now outweighing institutional ranking as a top signal of high quality education. Career outcomes are the number one non-academic factor. So it's not anymore rankings, it dethroned rankings. In a peer-reviewed study in 2024, improvements in rankings predicted increases in international student enrollment, especially for already high-ranked institutions. So basically, the impact of rankings on student choice is basically targeting the high-ranked institutions, the top 100 mainly, less so our case. What we can take away from this, rankings do influence perception and demand, but students are increasingly looking at outcomes, especially career outcomes. Student affairs can surface credible evidence through engagement, retention, career pathways to shape the narrative ethically. So that's a very key word also, ethics. Why are we talking about this? Because again, as I told you, the career outcomes are trumping rankings. That's how the usual press, the outlets that are analyzing, that's the way they present it. Of course, rankers will tell you otherwise. Ranking agencies will say that their ranking is the highest sought for tool to be able to choose a university. it consistently contradicts the results from the region. So the poll that we just ran showed, that mostly your students go to QS. In fact, we ran it many times, and it always shows that QS is the most reliable ranking for students in our region. Now, what are these? Why do I invite you to look at these evidence? Because some of you in some of your regions have some tangible things to look at. When you break down the data, you see that there are some trends that you can rely on in your work as student affairs. For instance, if you want to be, if you are in India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, marketing campaigns should focus on institutional reputation. If you want to attract students from Nigeria, Ghana, Indonesia, you should leverage more on good employability and subject rankings, not overall ranking. And then, of course, there is other areas where affordability is still a priority for many international students. So you can highlight your scholarships, financial aid, overall levels of cost of living for your area that can be useful. So what I'm telling you is that, there are some insights that you can get from rankings. This is a poll that I had run also in the region on LinkedIn and on X in Arabic, so that we can hopefully capture enough results from the region. It was respectable, in terms of numbers answered. And the good thing about it, while you look at it, is that the choice of تصنيف آخر أو لا تصنيف, which is other rankings or no rankings, is equally important to the others. So that's a good sign that our region is still, really reasonable into using rankings. That brings us to the second poll. How does it affect your work? How these numbers that we have seen, students coming to you choosing QS, choosing THE, choosing your university based on QS or on THE, how much do they know about ranking methodologies? And specifically this question, what student affairs or student experience indicator is included in ranking methodologies according to you? Which one of those do you think is included in ranking methodologies? Can you please answer that poll? Okay, so that excellent, 9 answers, 11. Good, we'll wait till the 12th answer and move on. Excellent. So basically, from what you say, student satisfaction and employability are there. Internationalization, less so. Sustainability and student experience. I think we have an audience, Wadad, who is really knowledgeable about rankings, because student experience was the least at least chosen here. This for you is I will not spend a lot of time when we share with you the presentation. This would be useful for you to see the overall map of ranking methodologies. I chose just the 3 main ones, but there are other rankings also that are emerging. This is the overall methodology. So let's focus basically on the question that we just asked. Are student affairs and student experience indicators included in the World University Ranking? As you can see, neither student satisfaction nor student experience is included, bluntly speaking, in Times Higher Education World University Ranking, nor QS World University Ranking, nor ARWO, which is Shanghai. The Times Higher Education has an academic reputation survey only. And it just asks teachers and faculty members about the university in general. We'll come back to that later. However, some of them have some other indicators that are embedded in your work, not directly related to your work, like student satisfaction and student experience, like employer reputation. QS has an employer reputation survey that asks employers how do they choose students or to become employees, and why from specific universities. There is an academic reputation survey in Times Education and QS. There is an employability survey in QS where it combines employer reputation and employment outcomes. Again, something that touches to your work. Internationalization indicators in Times Higher Education, you have, I will tell you what they are so that you know if they are really included in the work that you do. So basically, The international outlook has three components: international students, faculty, international students, ratio. So how many international students do you have versus nationals? Faculty, international faculty ratio, and international research collaboration. So basically, out of the three, I think one of them touches really on the work that you do. QS has one that is also related to faculty to students ratio and the international research network. So very similar. Finally, sustainability is published in Times of Education as a separate ranking that they are phasing out now due to its resounding success, it seems. But it's separate from the ranking. As QS includes this into the World University Ranking sustainability work, but it has nothing to do with the work done by students. So this is basically the situation. Although your work, and we will see later, is very important for rankings, for the branding of the university, for internationalization, it still is not captured in any of the methodologies of those rankings. That said, students still look at those rankings to choose a university. So what are the student affairs touch points in rankings? Of course, international outlook support. A student affair individual can enhance diversity and student mobility through orientation and intercultural initiatives. You can promote global engagement for your university. At the level of employability, you can enhance employability by offering career services, internships, alumni engagement, and all of these are supported by usually by student affairs. And finally, learning environment influence, through advising, retention efforts, well-being programs by student affairs improve the overall learning environment quality. So basically what we are trying to tell you here is that student affairs, although not captured exactly as it is into rankings, can still help the university in terms of rankings in these three areas, basically. But these are not exhaustive. Of course, every university has its own strategy and its own function for student affairs. You might also be touching on other areas that I did not cover here. This is the general agreement that you can influence, university rankings ethically. Again, we use this word again because that will come later on, through these three areas. Any questions until now? Do you have anything? Okay. So what would a student affairs ranking look like if I wanted to design a student affairs? So you tell me, okay, you told us that, these are not really indicators that are visible. And I tried to find some, as Wadat said, my background is not really student affairs. So this is where you will get your chance to also participate at a later stage. But if you have any concern now about things that I will mention, please let me know. So what I thought possible indicators would be is, of course, first year retention. I think that this would be an interesting indicator for any rankings if I want to measure, excellence. Sense of belonging, career confidence, student to advisor ratio, not to teacher ratio, how many advisors per student, access and equity metrics. Of course, equity and access should be tailor-made to our region's interests. Participation in co-curricular learning, well-being or utilization, and as you can see, data we already collect are ignored by rankings. None of these metrics are captured by rankings. The only way they touch on these is basically through some of the surveys in the SDGs. I see that Nabila proposed internationalization, career support. Yes, definitely. I think that these are also good additions to any rankings. Internationalization in the sense that, it covers really internationalization your way. It already covers internationalization, but not through student affairs, only in one small ratio, which is international students. And here we come to countries like Lebanon, Egypt, where you have unrest. Maybe, you cannot basically hold international students. In other cases, like in Qatar, Emirates, Saudi Arabia, this is an obsolete, number because especially in Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, expats outnumber the national. So, of course, any university will have a very big international body. So these are not really relevant. Student affairs, real internationalization indicators, like, for instance, maybe, summer school participation abroad, study abroad initiatives, these might be more interesting. I think Nabila might have touched on that in this perspective. So what are the opportunities? So يعني انت ما نكون عم ننق بس, so that we're not just saying bad things. There are, of course, I have a love-hate relationship with rankings. There are some interesting things, especially in our region. There is not much data that we can use. Rankings provide data. No matter how much gaming and cheating is involved, we have some data. We can always find the trends, analyze the trends, and understand them. For specifically student affairs, it can elevate your role by increasing visibility of student affairs. It can help you gain influence and resources. If you really go to your supervisors with this material that we are discussing today and can show them where your work really maps into ranking, especially in the region, sadly enough, or gladly enough, I don't know, I'll let you choose, but in our region, there is an interest in ranking. So you will be able to really go with tangible explanation to your supervisors, telling them why they need to support you and how your work will map into the ranking specifically. If I go to the next one, it's motivating institutional improvements. So you can detect issues in employability, in internationalization, in student engagement, and raise it with your supervisors to get the funds for it. And believe me, there are funds. I'll tell you where they're going later on. And leveraging data for advocacy, of course. So using this data to really tell them what the numbers say and support your initiatives, student-centered or whatever other initiatives you will have. And finally, of course, aligning the practices that you have with rankings. If rankings are of interest to your institution, مش عيب, it's not bad. You can align the work that you do with these practices so that you can really influence and get enough funding for your initiatives through rankings. From my experience, I handled accreditation and I handled rankings. Whenever it is accreditation, those of you know, if you ask for the documents, self-study to be filled in, people procrastinate as much as you want. When it comes to rankings, it's a catalyst. It directly, of course, accreditation is more important. It shows really, it's a real self-study. It's really more important for an institution. However, rankings are, whether we like it or not, more attractive, more important for institutions, and they have a direct impact. If you drop inside the rank, it's an issue for any institution. While for accreditation, you can always get a stipulation or whatever. It will not show anywhere. Now, from a support function to a strategic actor, that's what we want you to really embrace as student affairs. You already produce best student level data. This is where we, in our experience, this is where we get the best data, student affairs. No matter if you have institutional repositories or offices for data analytics, the best student level data is from you. Understanding of the lived experience, you have direct touch. The problem between universities and schools is that in schools, administrators are in direct contact with the students. In universities, you know that we are distant from the day-to-day life of students, except at student affairs. You're the only ones who really have a direct touch with the students and can understand the lived experience. And yet, as we again say again and again, rarely at the table in ranking strategies. We at Qatar University have focal points from every department. We have a ranking task force where student affairs is very well represented. But some in universities across the region and abroad do not really bring student affairs to the table in designing ranking strategies. And we advise you to reclaim the strategic relevance of student affairs. As you will see from this presentation, it is relevant in many areas. And of course, this brings us to, facing the opportunities. We have a lot of risks and ethical considerations. The risks, I'll go through them quickly. I tried to label them here in this slide. Overemphasis on metrics, relying too much on data can harm holistic student growth. And then you can, start engaging into boosting the scores without reality, having this in reality. There are unethical practices risk. I'll give you examples, and they don't come from student affairs, by the way. Don't take it. That's definitely not from you. Data manipulation, neglecting student needs. One example is to redirect scholarships. For instance, at least in our setting, we provide scholarships to locals or kids of expats. If I want to rise in rankings, I would redirect this money to attract international students, which defeats the purpose of my mission, which is to engage the local community and provide good education to the local community, be it Qataris or non-Qataris. I'm sure it's the same in a different setup for all of you. So that's how it can be manipulated. Maintaining the integrity. of course, you have to keep this in mind, even though it's sometimes tempting to play around with some numbers to rise in the rankings, and definitely an ethical use of rankings in the sense that you have to read the data very well. If you are ranked number one in one indicator, you might want to look more into these numbers. For instance, we were ranked once in the top 50 in forestry. I could go, very public about it and say, Qatar University has a top 50 worldwide ranked subject in forestry, but that I would not really look very intelligent in a country that is mostly a desert. So basically, you have to be really aware of what you're using as data. It turned out that, because of the ranking methodology, data was taken from specific journals where our researchers were publishing and had high citations. By design, as you've seen from the slides before, the rankings are built for research universities. They assume that you have a strong research funding, you have a lot of English language publishing, and that you have residential campuses. And by structure, you're starting with a disadvantage as a university if you are teaching focused, if you are a commuter institution, and if you are in the global south. It's a fact. You just have to look at the top 100 universities across rankings, and you will see only Saudi universities in some rankings, otherwise none from the global south. And of course, access-oriented institutions. The reason is that rankings systematically undervalue what student affairs does. It does just strictly, student experience is strictly, invisible by design of any ranking. So rankings don't just measure universities, they change behavior. This is another risk. It's okay, it would have been good if, they don't judge us, they don't use us, they don't include us, but they don't affect our work. I would be fine with it. However, we are noticing that they change behavior. So universities engaging in rankings are changing behaviors more so in the region. Resources, as I gave an example, for instance, about scholarships, but also you shift your resources from teaching, good teaching, valuing good teaching, hiring good teachers as faculty members, into hiring a highly cited researcher or a researcher that has a very high reputation because it helps you in the ranking. Student-facing units must justify themselves through metrics they don't control. So basically, sometimes we ask you, why don't we have a lot of international students? And that might be the fact that you just can't yourself, justify that. We just cannot hire international students because of the way we run things, and you don't have to justify yourselves. Each institution has its own priorities. Again, priorities that drift from learning and belonging toward prestige optimization. So again, as I told you, lowering the number of hours, contact hours for teachers so that they can focus on research, not always what you should be doing in a normal setup in the Arab world or anywhere in the world where you are a teaching institution. So what I'm saying is that we are reshaping the student experience by relocating some of the budget that should have been used for all of these things you engage in that are very important for students into other areas that are less important than student affairs, student experience, and student satisfaction. And of course, there are instances where there is direct harm to students through manipulation or misleading ranking data. So basically, a student might choose a university thinking that's the best in computer science and end up having the worst experience just because, as I told you, research is captured. We have two components that we will talk about later on in this research and surveys. So basically, this student is looking at the university and sees that it's at the top 100 in computer science, chooses the university, goes there, realizes that it's a very bad experience. Turns out that the ranking has captured only some researchers' excellent work that affected extraneous values that affected one of the ranking indicators and made this one look really high. Misreported indicators that shape expectations and financial decisions. Again, scholarships, that's a very important thing. And then when ranking data is false, the students absorb the risk. They're just there. They don't know more, and they have relied too much on rankings. And the invisible victim, of course, is the student everywhere, be it in wrong research or be it in misallocation of the resources through scholarships or through limiting the student experience at the expense of having them really rise in ratios. So these are, so basically this is what I'm telling you about the ranking data directly harming students. Now I will go in more details about specific examples, examples that are really taken from real life that I've been monitoring for a while. The Clarivate, which is one of the largest databases in research, has done a cleaning 2 years back on its database, where it found that there were 1,000 researchers that were not living in the country of their primary affiliation. They were abroad. Universities like those were paying these people while they are in Turkey, Athens, or in Greece, in the United States, giving them money to place themselves as a primary affiliation. While they were not at the university, they were not doing research for the university. Students were not really benefiting from their presence, but in rankings, especially in the Shanghai rankings, that takes its data from Clarivate, these universities were in the top of the ranking. And this is why I tell you it's good that you did not choose Shanghai as a good indicator for rankings. It's basically purely research oriented. There are also the risks of paper mills. So as you can see, the numbers are staggering. The very high risk publishers, Hindawi, which is based in Egypt, Elsevier, which is the top one. Also, they claim to be really very prestigious. MDPI, Spring Nature. You can see the numbers, 10,000 retractions, 11,400 high risk papers. All of these are pouring into data, for rankings and causing all of these misconceptions of students thinking that these universities are doing great. These are the threats of paper mills. I will not go through them. They will be in the presentation. That's a very funny one. It's a research that was done. You can, in fact, buy citations. So basically, I'm not making this up. This is a research. It's published. You can see that it is published. Again, our region, sadly enough, is impacted like other regions. It's not only in the Arab world. So here you can just by WhatsApp buy. I have a publication. I want to have 50 more citations. I pay $300, $500 per 100 citations. So كمان there is a price here. عاملين لكم سعر يعني إذا 300 only 50, 500 you get 100 citations, so you gain. That's just for you to see, how people are gaming the system. This is the 2023 patents surge. Times Education included patents in its methodology as an indicator for excellence, which is definitely an indicator of excellence. So as you can see, 2023, we had the regions of the University of California, excuse me, MIT, University of Texas system. That's the chart on your left with the top number of patents. On the right, you can see King Faisal outnumbering. In 1 year, King Faisal passed from a specific number of patents to another one. It doesn't mean there is any wrongdoing. It just tells you how much money is poured into this. Maybe it would be wiser to use it into student affairs system. That's the part related to research. Now to the part related to surveys. These ranking agencies, again, as I told you, two components that are affecting your work as student affairs. Big chunk of research that is gamed, as you can see, and another big chunk which is based on surveys, but they're not surveying students. They're not surveying student affairs professionals who can give really the real element of student experience and student satisfaction. They're just asking researchers everywhere in the world to vote for a given university. And then when we reported the fact that there were there were things that are wrong in these voting systems where people are gaming the results, they retracted them. But the harm was already done. Some universities, as you can see, had an increase of 8,124% in votes. Clearly, in 1 year, I don't know what happened to this, unless they really won some popularity contest or really something happened to them. We don't see how these would be possible numbers that the ranking agency accepted. And these are the countries that were, these are the ranked institutions and the top 150, sadly, from the Arab world. However, this is not the only issue. We also have this, the Arab world is not the only one affected. Governments in the West took initiatives to rise in the rankings. France decided to regroup universities. Those of you like me who knew the French system in the old days, Sorbonne, Paris 1, Paris 2, Paris 3, this is not there anymore. They have regrouped universities because, the French system was based on Grande École. So it's not really a comprehensive university. They were disadvantaged by the rankings. So they changed the whole system. Didn't help them much, but still they did that. You also have South Australia, Australia, West Australia, all of these universities, Romania, all of them tried to, this is not gaming, by the way, it's just reshaping a university, but it still affects your experience. It still affects your students in many ways. Facing that, we've seen lately that there are some, I might call it a change of tides. Now it's starting to become interesting, but it's not really yet. The momentum in our region is not really big, although we have seen a lot of important things happening. The Korean had started by, uniting against QS ranking changes. Universities in China had quit international rankings. That's 2022, 2023. IITs, anyways, in India, boycott Times Higher Education ranking from the beginning. Sub-Saharan Africa also voiced its concerns. And the US system, US News, is more well seen as a ranking than the THE, QS, and ARWU. Again, they also had to deal with their own issues. And lately, the big momentum came from Europe. Utrecht decided to go out of Times Education. They did not only go out, they did a presentation, a 2 hours presentation about the reason why they decided to opt out of the ranking. They were followed by other big universities. I will not name them all. They are there. I will stick to the Arab world. In fact, as I said, Utrecht started first. Zurich followed. Sorbonne this year, university in France, decided to go out. And the good news is that AUB, American University of Beirut, and 6 universities in Jordan decided to pull out of the Times Higher Education ranking. And they all mentioned the same reason, ethical issues. Which is a very good thing. If universities are starting to see this issue of ethics worldwide, and specifically in the Arab region, that means that yes, we might be close to a change of tides here. I invite you to listen to this very knowledgeable person, Dr. Abdullah Al-Khuzami from Saudi Arabia, who mentioned also what he believes are good things. And I'm putting it here because it's exactly related to your work. He specifically said that if I wanted to know what a good university is, I'd ask the students. I would go to the students and I would ask them. And he said, القيمة للجامعة في مخرجاتها. The real impact of a university and the real value of university is in the profile of its graduates, not in the ranking it shows. It's a very funny, extract of a very long interview. I invite you to look at it if you're interested. Now, what's the real controversy? The real controversy is, who is defining education quality? Who says if a university is good or bad? Basically, for now, it's rankings. They define excellence via research prestige. Student Affairs defines quality via lived experience. So basically, this is where we have a problem with rankings. This lived experience of students is not matching what rankings are. You just have to see how, students in, the big institutions in the West are struggling at the level of, well-being, at the level of mental struggles. These are all issues that are not shown in the ranking, and students are being fooled by rankings into having maybe a lived experience that does not match their profile. The logic of lived experience and research prestige is usually inversely proportional. Not only they do not meet, I tried to put it in a nice way here, they rarely meet, yes, but also they are inversely proportional rather. And then, of course, student experience is missing, as we have seen from the global definition of excellence. The last stretch will be about practical strategies for your engagement. How I see it, and please don't take it as prescriptive. Student affairs is not my background. What I'm suggesting is based solely on my lived experience, on my crunching of data. They are subject to your additions, removals, and discussion. So if I want to design a student affairs playbook for rankings, for ranking aware practice, in fact, I would say your role would be in collecting credible student data. Gather any reliable evidence of student engagement, retention, career outcomes to inform institutional strategies, and basically to counter the rhetoric that some rankings give you. It can be a very good tool for you to counter the rhetoric, or on the contrary, play along with this rhetoric and get more funding for the good cause that you are responsible of. Strengthen employability initiatives. We've seen some data and rankings that might be useful for your students, like increasing internships during the study, long internships, paid internships, international internships are all things that employers look at. Have employer panels designed where you can get this data, validate the data from rankings instead of just accepting it as it is. And of course, the alumni tracking is a very important resource. It is anyways captured by ranking. It would be good for you to have your own data. Enhance international experiences, as I said, and the intercultural learning mobility programs are always a plus. Prioritizing the well-being and the belonging for the students. Use your own surveys to see how your students are engaging with the university initiatives, and of course, keep the ethical standards high, and you will see how you can detect the gaming that is done in ranking agencies across the region and across the world also in some areas, specific areas. Now, finally, according to you, what do you think as a student affairs professional that the main drivers of internationalization should be or are at your institution? So basically, when you think of internationalization, what is the main driver at your institutional level? It's an open-ended question. It can be anything. Just when you want to approach internationalization with your boss, what is the main driver or drivers that you might want to promote? Can I write it in English, Arabic, any language, as long as it is representing what you think? I have one answer. Excellent. Thank you. You can have more than one answer, of course, you realize that. It's quite balanced. This is the first panel where we have numbers that are, words that are quite balanced. There is nothing that stands out as a common understanding to everyone, which is, very good. It's a good sign of equity and accessibility, maybe. Okay, so the point from this, and I'm happy, very few of you chose what was in fact something that transpired in one of the surveys. I will wait because there are still 3 who are writing, as I saw, so that we can benefit from other point of views also. Excellent. Please keep populating it. It will be useful for us to gather all these ideas, especially that it's quite rich in this specific panel. In fact, the sad part is that in a survey that was done by the IAU, which is the International Association of Universities Worldwide, in the MENA region, what stood out as the main driver of internationalization is national international rankings. So we let this panel who answered those surveys let go of all the ethical and الأهداف السامية, the high standards, essential questions of student affairs, and decided to look at international rankings or to use international rankings and national rankings as the driver for internationalization. That adds to the risks that we are facing, while you can see the other options would be matching, in fact, what most of you have put in your answers here, which is cultural diversity, students' sense of belonging, student experience, cultural exchange again. So all of these are basically what you can see. As you've seen, sadly enough, in our region, the MENA region, the risk is that the main drivers of people who are working on internationalization, because this survey is specifically addressed to people working on internationalization, is rankings. switch a little bit for you on employability because I touched on it, but I didn't go through it because I spent most time on research and on surveys. But there are also some good things about ranking numbers. It's that they give you some insights about what our employers are. As I said, Times Higher Education does not have employability ranking in itself, but it contracts or it edits, it helps this institution that is in France that does an employability survey. In fact, JURS, which is the Global Employability Survey, and QS has an employability one. So both of them agree on the fact that some ideas are being brought into the market by employers, and it's important for you in student affairs to look at them. Mainly that employers think that they cannot really assess a university, which is quite good because it's better to say I don't know than to just assess, in any possible way. They value projects, portfolios, internships. So this is something that you can use also while going back to your academic side and telling them, the students really need this to be better on the employment market and to be more marketable. And of course, the good thing about it is that in the BRICS countries, which we have a lot of similarities, international recognition ranks last among academic performance criteria. So employers don't really look at the rank of university when they are hiring. There are, of course, other things like the green skills readiness. Again, the nice thing about employers that they are free from any pressure, and they said we cannot really clearly define what green skills we expect from graduates. At least they're honest about it. So anything that is being imposed on you as being important for green skills, employers themselves are saying, we don't know what green skills are and how we can really measure them. So basically, it brings you back to more freedom into really knowing what a green skill is and imposing it. The final thing that you might want to see is that in the MENA region, which is in light blue, accessibility and local embeddedness is the more important part. In Qatar, it's even more acute. Less so if we look at the other like visibility and mutual recognition, as you have seen, is not really something that is very valued. Finally, if I want to map student affairs work into ranking indicators, like if I wanted to do it in a way that directly translate for you, like a working document for you, international outreach programs, of course, peer mentoring, cultural events that you can organize, they foster diversity and inclusion to enhance international outlook ranking indicators. So this targets specifically international outlook ranking indicators. Again, not prescriptive, just for you, ideas for you to be able to, if you want to organize an event, you have a stronger maybe point to give your university if they are interested in rankings. Employability enhancement, career coaching, experiential learning, and engaging alumni to improve employability indicators for students. And learning environment support, of course, first-year experiences, advising, well-being initiatives contribute to positive learning environment proxies, so more, positive outcomes in the surveys later on, because ultimately those students are going to graduate and go to the employment market and definitely vote for you at some point, hopefully, as a university. I've summarized them here in 3 core messages, one of which should really resonate with you, which is translate, don't chase. So basically, align authentic student affairs work to rank indicators and don't blindly chase the metrics and try to be there on top of the thing. So this is, again, a summary of all of what we have discussed. And finally, my favorite, screenshot here, as Master Yoda said it so well, if you decide to go into rankings games, which is a dark path, as I saw it, it might be irreversible. So play it on your own terms. It's a game. Remember, it's a game. Play it on your own. You can benefit from it a lot, but remember, it is a game. So don't really rely too much on it. Finally, I kept this slide for you to see, the final thoughts for you after all of it we have discussed, and that's for me, for my interest, because as I told you, I would learn a lot from you if you add to what I have presented as possible indicators. Remember, I talked about first-year experience, about all these things. So you, as a student affairs, professional, what would you add to ranking methodologies that reflects specifically what you do in your field. What is a ranking indicator that's not there that you would like to see there? As you've seen, these are some ideas that are already there. If you can engage, it would be great. The presentation is done with that. If you want to, in the meantime, propose any questions, or if you see in the chat any questions I can ask in the remaining time, I can stay a bit longer if you want, for those who are interested.
Thank you so much, Cesar, for this presentation. I think the summary of 15 years of work on coordination, we got them in 1 hour. So we are so appreciative of your time and effort, especially that student affairs is not within your radar usually. Thank you so much. I think people are submitting in the chat their ideas about ranking. Mr. Farid said about ethical values. Thank you, Muhammad Khan, for your very interesting from Mr. Mazloom. And I think we don't have questions in the chat, but if anybody would like to please unmute yourself and tell us your question. We have like 4 or 5 minutes. And Cesar, can we go? Students' experience in the labor market could be a tool for ranking. Yes, it can be.
Excellent. If possible to put it into the the slide, it would be good. If not, don't worry, we will capture it from the if you can take a screenshot of all these examples, because it will be very interesting for us to be able to collect all this data for future reference. One thing that I wanted to tell you, you can always lobby with ranking agencies. It doesn't always work, but it's starting to give some good results. So you can ask, but don't think that this is a long shot to ask ranking agencies, why don't they put this indicator that you feel so strongly about in the ranking? I did so, and they the answers make you even more sure about their approach. يعني مثلا أنا سألتهم, I asked them, why is it that you don't put student experience and student satisfaction in this? Why don't you survey students? And they said it costs a lot. I'll give you an example of what they get paid from one of the governments in the region, 15 million pounds. If you tell this government, we want to include a survey for students, I'm sure the government will not tell you, if I'm paying 15 million pounds anyways, it wouldn't be much more if I pay 500,000 more to include a student survey. So basically, it's very simple, and you know it. Students are harder to manipulate. Sadly enough, you can, as you've seen, there are examples of manipulation of researchers, manipulation of faculty members. You see it in the news, retraction, all of the things that are, but it's very hard to manipulate the student mass. They will not be able to do so. So they don't want to collect this data. That's very simple. And this is why I'm telling you, challenge them, ask them, why is this indicator not accepted? And then you will see that their answer is even worse than not answering.
I know that you have a slide where you have your LinkedIn, and so maybe you can share it. So if they have any question or they would like to know more about ranking, they can reach out to you.
Sure.
Because
That's,
this is our
LinkedIn, X, email. Basically, you can see on LinkedIn, I'm very vocal about what I see wrong in ranking. So you can see all these data that I gave you. I've written about them. If you're interested, also we can engage in any possible way. Thank you for attending. I will stay for as long as you need me to stay. And those who have to leave, please. Thank you for attending, and hopefully we will meet soon.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for everyone. Hopefully we'll meet again with more presentation from ISS. And NASPA, please reach out to any one of us if you have any question. And have a very, very good day. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.